What's going on, everyone? It's Mike back again, and welcome to the Manchester City debrief. It was Everton 1, Manchester City 3, a game of two halves, a game of a poor VAR decision. But before we start all of that, we've obviously got the sensational co-host, that is John, with his specs and his headphones and his shit haircut. I want to mention something before we start, because I was reading the comments and a lot of people were seeing me as, well, negative, and both in the pre-match and also in the match reaction. So I want to explain where I am in terms of football fan at the moment. So firstly, I don't trust VAR as far as I can throw it. So if you're expecting me to be positive for every game and excited and eager, you're probably going to have an Everton fan that is confident of going into games against Wolves and getting results and all these teams. But you've also got an Everton fan here that is a little bit worried that we're going to get shafted week in, week out by dodgy officiating. So sorry if I don't come across as all guns blazing, buzzing, absolutely flying off the wall, because I expect the world to chew us up and spit us out like VAR, the PGML, or whatever they're called, and the Premier League consistently do. So sorry if that's not positive for you. Sorry about that. And secondly, when we talk about matches, we do it on a match-by-match basis. So, for example, last night, we criticised Onana for not being in the game, and I'm sure John is going to follow on from that very aggressively. I criticised Pickford for his distribution and his mistake. I criticised Patterson for not getting close to Grealish. I criticised Dominic Calvert-Lewin for missing yet another sitter, and I criticised VAR, the referees, like everything. Now, unfortunately, sometimes that comes across negative. But it's only because I expect Calvert-Lewin to score from 3 yards. I expect Patterson to get closer to Grealish. I expect Pickford's distribution to be better than kicking it against a Man City player and they score the third goal, which kills us. I expect VAR to not give a penalty against a handball that's a yard away from Onana's face. I'm sorry if that comes across as negative, but every match reaction is what it is. If we win, I'll be buzzing. My titties will be flying. They'll be like, "Whoa, yeah, we're the best team in the world. You know, we're going to win the lot, Premier League, FA Cup." You know, we've mentioned all of it. But sometimes it's not like that. And yesterday annoyed me. So sorry that you've just had a 3-minute long rant. But sometimes I have to explain the reason I say things on videos, and that was the reason. Now, John, I'm literally just gonna leave you to it for a little bit now, because I've spoken for 4 minutes.
Yeah, just following on from that. Listen, everyone's entitled to an opinion. I get slated for having an opinion about certain players. Michael is getting slated for having an opinion about VAR, about certain players, about performances, about substitutions. They are called opinions for a reason, because we're all entitled to them. Whatever people comment in the comments is not going to change what I say and what Michael say if we believe that if it is to be right in our opinion. So that's how it's going to be. And some of the comments that have been put in about Michael and about me, the people who are commenting them are very, very rare put comments. So to me, that tells me that you don't watch much of the channel, which is your choice. There's loads of Everton channels out there. But you can't have a pop at me or Michael from watching 3 minutes or a part of one video that we've done. So I will reiterate, everyone's entitled to an opinion. Put them in the comments, but don't shoot us down because we've had one. On to the game. So I thought Everton, first half, we played well. I thought it was just a continuation, not as good as the second half from Tottenham, but I thought we continued in good form in the first half. A couple of decisions went against us, which changed the game, in my opinion. Second half, Man City were a different animal. That second half performance Man City put in last night is probably the best half of football they've played for quite a few weeks. So there's no disgrace in getting beat 3-1 by Man City. But VAR again has done us over. How can Onana get out of the way of that? He can't. He can't. You know, he's got in the way to block a goal-bound shot. It's not as if he's gone while he's standing up. He's lunging. It's the only place he can put his hands.
Yeah.
They're looking for every chance they get to do Everton over.
They don't even hide it. So on Sky Sports today, they do the referee watch, I think they call it, or the refs watch.
Yeah.
And it's Dermot Gallagher comes on and he speaks about decisions that have happened over the weekend or over the week's games. And he spoke about the penalty and he says, look, letter of the law now, that is a penalty. But I think it was 3 weeks ago, a similar thing happened to another player from another team, and that penalty isn't given, and that was the right decision. Yet it was exactly the same thing. And I sit there and the thing that I hate most about VAR is it destroys the initial emotion out of anything. Like, we score a goal, we don't really celebrate because we worry they're gonna find a reason to disallow it. You know, you see the Man City players, they run around the ref because they're trying to their say there was a push, there was a push, there was a push. You know, these teams now, they look for any reason for it to go to VAR and then for them to not give a goal. And the same thing happens with penalties, the same thing happens with fouls, the same thing happens with offsides. It just doesn't work. And how in a week, in the space of 5 days, they can give no penalty, and I'm going to say no penalty to Liverpool against Arsenal when Odegaard clearly touches the ball with his hand on the floor, clear as that. Yet they give a penalty against Everton for Onana. It's blatantly corrupt, and it disappoints me every game. Every game there's something, and we've been done now. Liverpool game, I think it was Chiarte should have been sent off for a second yellow. Doesn't give it. There was a decision in the Manchester United game, but I think it was a penalty or something. Doesn't give it. The weekend against Spurs, Onana's having his shirt literally pulled off his back. Doesn't give it. Last night, doesn't give the penalty against something that he can't get out the way of. It's just, they don't even hide it now, John. Me and you were sitting there in the car. They don't hide it. And this is what agitates me because, like we mentioned last night, I want our players to be more snide. I want our players now to be more, you know, if they're clipped, they go down. If they have to get round the referee, get round the referee. You know, I don't want to see Tarkowski anymore walking over to the refs and having a really nice chat. And, you know, because he does do that. Fair play to him. He goes up, he gives him a point. He's a decent leader, Tarkowski. I'll give him it. But I don't want to see it anymore. I want to see us be petulant. I want to see our players be children. I want to see them make absolute idiots of themselves. So they highlight all of the other teams that have come to Goodison Park that throw themselves on the floor. They get silly decisions where Everton get done time and time again, because that happened last night. Every Man City player was falling over. The weekend, Emerson Royale was constantly falling over. I mean, the more I look at the game, I said it was a foul at the time, but the more I look at it now, it is soft. It is soft, but Emerson Royale goes down like that, piece of cat, boom, boom, boom. Who cares? I hate it, John. I hate the game.
As a team, we're too quiet, as in arguing decisions that have gone against us. Perfect example, years gone by, and I know they've said you can't surround the referee. Now, managers can't give the referee loads, but teams are still doing it, and we don't. We need to do that. We need to get in the referee's ear as a team. all leg it over to the referee. If we get a decision against us, which we believe is not right, Man City players are doing it last night. They were surrounding the referee. And I want to point out one player who Michael did not mention then, but I can give a perfect example of. Jack Grealish.
Yeah.
What a pussy. I'm sorry, he's a great player when he's bang on form. But you clip him or touch him the slightest bit, he's down, and he gets more free kicks by going down and feigning injury from the slightest clip that he gets on his leg, on his ankle, on his foot. And 9 times out of 10, he will get that decision. So Everton, as you quite rightly say, need to start doing that as a team and see how many decisions we get. Because then, if we don't, as a club, we need to write a letter. Sean Dyche needs to write a letter to the PGMOL and the Premier League and say, look, one rule for everyone else and one rule for us.
Yeah.
Jack Grealish is a perfect example. We scored that goal last night, and they were arguing that there was a push on one of their players in the build-up to it. I didn't celebrate the goal like I should have done when it initially went in, because I thought this is going to VAR and they're going to give the goal out. They're not going to count the goal. They're not going to give the goal because they're going to take that little push and use it against us, because week in, week out, we're getting decisions that are not going our way when they should. But as you quite rightly say, other teams are getting decisions that they shouldn't be getting.
It's
there's no balance. And as you said, they're not trying to hide it anymore.
No,
it's so blatantly obvious.
It's like this weekend. This weekend we play against Wolves, and I would argue Wolves have got a very similar argument to what we can have in terms of decisions against them this season. I would say that Wolves and Everton are probably the two teams that have been shafted the most. Some statistics: Everton have given away 5 penalties this season.
Yeah,
they've been rewarded 0, none.
Yeah.
Me and John were trying to work out how many penalties we've been awarded in the last 3.5 years, and I really think it's 3. It might be 4, but it really isn't many. And you've got teams that are getting 6, 7, 8 a season. It is scandalous. But
as a club, we need to address that now, not wait for any more decisions to go against us. We should be getting in touch with the authorities who run this sort of stuff week in, week out, the FA, the Premier League, whoever it may be, and say to them, look, where's the fairness? And I know we're sounding like criers here, but no, it's facts. It's becoming facts now. And I know we sound like we're moaning, but it's so blatantly obvious that vendetta that we've got against Everton Football Club, it's starting to smack us in the face now. We need to do something about that as a club.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not. It doesn't. The thing with VAR, and I've always said this, is you can use it as an excuse. And I've never tried to use VAR as an excuse. I've always, if we've lost the game, I've always said, right, we didn't play good enough, or blame the players or whatever. But there has been occasions this season where we've just been shafted, like literally just been shafted. And it's not just this season. It's happened for years. It's actually happened for years. And yet we are so soft. We've got this gentle little underbelly. And we just let them just
accept it.
Just tickle our tummy and punch us in the face at the same time. It's a joke. But
VAR was brought in to help the referees. VAR in the last couple of games, especially the Tottenham one, we've all got our opinions about the Calvert-Lewin goal when Gomez apparently done the foul. The linesman was 10 yards away and didn't give it. He didn't wave his flag. The referee didn't give it. VAR told the referee to have a look at it. So VAR got involved in that before the referee and the linesman did. Has that happened in any other game this season? I very, very much doubt it. So it was brought in to help the referees. And one more thing we speak about on the debrief is, why do we not see the decisions or listen to them around the ground, what they're saying? But why? I think rugby have stuff like that. You can hear it on the telly and stuff like that, and you can hear it. the players can hear it. Why can't every ground's got a big screen and now? Why can't they play it on the screen? How they've made their decision and come to the conclusion of the verdict they've got, how they've come to the conclusion. Why can't we hear it as fans? Because I'm telling you now, I tell you why, because VAR is only in place for certain teams. And it is.
There's no getting around it though. We played all right first half, and second half, Man City blew us away. Foden was particularly good for me.
Yeah.
We didn't stay close enough to him in the middle of the park. Look, we did our match reaction, so there's no point crucifying players. But on the debrief, we can obviously talk about what we need to see improving or changing. And I've always sat here and sort of said, look, I'll rate Onana, or I believe he's got something. And then about 4 or 5 weeks ago, I felt like we noticed when we missed him. And I still think we probably would notice him if we missed him. But I do sort of think something has got to his head, because he seems to be, I'm not going to say selfish, but he seems to be
very ego.
Yeah, but I don't quite know. I know he's always been about him, and I actually don't have an issue with that in young players. I want them to stand up for themselves and be proud and be shouting. But he didn't have a good game last night, and yet he was the one that was trying to G up the crowd. He was the one that was, we'd win it. And I've had enough of seeing that from Onana. I want to just see him get his head down and be the best box-to-box midfielder he can be, the best defense, whatever position he is. I want to see it. And Fulham, last night, against Spurs, I don't know if we saw that, John. I don't know where the Onana that we really liked 5-6 games ago, where he's gone.
I think I said this on the match reaction last night. With Onana, there's no in between. Is that you would either see the Onana from 5 or 6 weeks ago, or you'll see the Onana that we're seeing against Tottenham, that we're seeing against Fulham, that we're seeing last night. Listen, I have no qualms that he is going to be a decent player as he gets older, as he settles into the Premier League or wherever he ends up. But as you quite rightly say, stop the cheerleading and do what you're paid for on the pitch. Get into games, grab games by the scruff of the neck, because if you're supposed to be this big player that you think you are, you should be grabbing games by the scruff of the neck. And I know it's hard to do that against the likes of City, but it's not hard to do that against the likes of Fulham. We watched him in the early rounds of the Carabao Cup. Was it Doncaster we played, I think, or something like that? He should be grabbing games like that by the scruff of the neck, and he was non-existent in that game either. There wasn't many good performances in the second half yesterday, but I find myself now saying this most weeks, apart from when he went through that little purple patch a month and a half ago. I seem to be having a pop at Onana because I know there's more in there. And the comments that I get about Onana having a pop at him, leave him alone, he's young, new to the league. I don't care what people think about Onana. That is your opinion, and this is what we spoke about here at the beginning of the video. I have my opinions on Onana, and I think he could do a lot more than what he's doing, an awful lot more. Because I'm telling you now, I'll ask you a question, Michael. If Onana's out and Decore's out at the same time, who do you think we would miss the most at the minute?
Decore.
Yeah. Now, I'm glad you said that, because you're not Decore's biggest fan. So what does that tell everyone about our opinions, by the way, of Onana's performances the last few games? That speaks volumes. That.
Do you know what I also think as well? And I'm glad you've mentioned Decore, because I've been quick to criticise Decore as well at times this season. You know what? He's got all the energy in the world, but in terms of a football IQ, he doesn't have one. And look, I'll sit here until for a month of Sundays if you want and tell you he doesn't have a football like you. But what Decore does have is an engine, his work ethic, is the ability to just pop up in the right places. Now, don't get me wrong, sometimes he'll miss a sitter, but other times this season he's scored and he's got 6 goals. So you can't sit there and disrespect him at all. He's I'm not going to say he's proved me wrong, but he's having a good season. We've clearly missed that. We have clearly missed his engine in the middle of the park, and it's almost like we've needed an Arna to step up and sort of do that.
Hasn't done it.
He hasn't done it. He hasn't done it, and I don't think there is a. I don't think it's strange that there's been a drop off in Onana as a result of Decore not being there. I don't think that's odd, because they need him. He needs him. Onana needs Decore.
Yeah, totally agree. And we said this a while back that you can't play the 3 of the central midfielders, Garner, Guy, Decore, and Onana together. Now, but you can play Decore and Onana together with James Garner in there. And as you quite rightly said, I think I think when them two play together, you see the better of Decore because he can push forward. He's not stuck in that centre. He's got a great engine on him, as you quite rightly say. And we are missing him. I would put money on it. If he plays last night, the second half wouldn't have turned out the way it did. I'm not saying Man City wouldn't have won, but we would have given them more of a game in the second half, without a doubt, in my opinion.
I think he just offers something through the middle of the park. Look, James Garner for me is a really impressive footballer because he actually can do everything. I was seeing a debate on Twitter about who's better, Onana or James Garner. Well, the answer is James Garner by an absolute country mile. Now, I don't know if Onana's ceiling is higher than James Garner's. That is a possibility, but James Garner right now is one of the first names on the team sheet. If you was to say to me, you've got a fully fit squad, Mike, does Onana play against Wolves? I'd probably say no. He needs dropping because he needs to sort of go back in his box. He needs to sort of have,
doesn't he?
Yeah, and it's not, and this is where people say I'm negative. It isn't a dig at these players, but it is sitting there knowing that they are capable of so much more. Look at the difference yesterday. 2 weeks ago, I expect more from Jack Harrison. I've been disappointed. I think he's a good player. I think there's one in there. I want to see something. What did I say about him last night? I said it was his best performance. I said he was great. I said he scored a good goal. He almost got another one if it weren't for a world-class save from Ederson. He caused problems. His first touch was exquisite. So when I sit here and I talk about players, it's not because I don't want them to do well. It's because I want them to be the best they can be. It's when I look at this Everton team, it's clearly a work in progress, and it's clearly better than it has been over the last 2 years. But you can still sit there and comment on a player when they haven't had a good game, because I'm not going to sit there and go, "You were great today," if you wasn't. Because I just wouldn't. And there's other players, Nathan Patterson. I was calling for him to start over Ashley Young and Seamus Coleman. I'm wrong. I 100% am wrong. I am not saying there isn't a player there in the future, in a season, in 6 months, whenever. I'm not saying there isn't. But last night, we needed a little bit more experience, I felt, because we lost our heads a little bit. And when you've got young lads like Mikalenko, Patterson, Garner, Onana, as you sort of two there, and you two probably in the most key positions last night against City's wingers and City's midfielders. There's no experience in there. I'm not surprised they crumbled. I'm not surprised they crumbled. And I think if you've got an Ashley Young in there, or a Seamus Coleman, or even I mean, people might not like what I'm about to say, but even a Garner Gay, who hasn't played great this season, in my opinion, but he's got that experience. I think we probably can get more out of that game last night. We didn't deserve to lose. We didn't deserve to lose. They might have had a fantastic second half, but Everton still had a gilt-edged chance with Calvert-Lewin. They still almost scored from Jack Harrison. There was more than enough in that game yesterday for Everton to get at least a point. And they didn't bottle it. They didn't bottle it because it's City. You don't bottle it against City. City just step up. But Everton could have probably held their nerve a little bit better yesterday.
With an older head there, and I've been saying this for a few weeks, and again, this isn't a pop show of players. But for me, Nathan Patterson's going to be a really, really good player for Everton when he gets a bit more experience.
Yeah.
When you have games like last night against a top team like Man City, the form hasn't been great, but you can't take it away from that. They are one of the best teams going. Ashley Young brings more experience to that team, as you quite rightly say. We missed experience last night. Okay, we had Tarkowski there, but we needed it in other positions last night. And I've been saying for a good few weeks now, I can't wait until Ashley Young's back or Seamus Coleman is back and just take Nathan Patterson out the team and put a bit of experience in there.
Yeah.
Because, again, it isn't a pop. It's going to be a good player in a few years, in my opinion. But I can see why, when Ashley Young was fit, he was getting picked ahead of Nathan Patterson.
Yeah. There's a lot of positive signs to this Everton team. You know, you look at Branthwaite, Young, Mikalenko, Young, Patterson, Young, Garner, Anana, Young, Dobbin, Young. You know, you look at these players and you think the future's all right. Chimiti has looked okay when he's been on. Look, there was a couple of games where he's looked a bit ropey, but he's 19 years old. That's going to happen. But you know, these players, the future is bright. The future's exciting. It's what's around it at the minute. And look, we are screaming out, in my opinion, for a ball carrying, older head, experienced centre midfielder. I can't believe I'm going to say this, but
I know what you're going to say.
We're crying out for a striker that can score a goal. I mean, it's actually, I can't believe we spent £45 million on strikers in the summer, and I think they've scored 6 goals between them, 5 goals. I don't know what it is, but I can't believe it, because Beto, I think, would be great off the left-hand side on the wing, cutting in. I think he'd be his ferociousness, his aggression, but he can't hold up a ball. And Calvert-Lewin, who can hold up a ball, can't score one-on-ones, and he hasn't been able to score one-on-ones in 5 years, so that hasn't changed. So I don't know what the answer is to that either. But that's all Everton are missing, in my opinion. It's all they're missing.
We're missing someone who can consistently score goals from the forward line, aren't we? You know, you look at other teams who are doing it, you know, and I've said this and I got absolutely slated for it, but you know what? Going back to what we said earlier on the video, I'm going to tell everyone my opinion again. Dominic Calvert-Lewin is not an out-and-out striker, in my opinion. An out-and-out striker scores more than what he's had, than what he has. You know, a Romelu Lukaku scores that goal last night. An out-and-out striker. As Michael said, one-on-ones, he's shocking. One-on-ones, he's shocking. Dominic Calvert-Lewin, his arse goes. So, for me, he's not good enough. I'll say it. I don't think Dominic Calvert-Lewin is good enough to score enough goals for us every season to push us up that league. He's not. We haven't got a striker who is good enough to do that. We haven't got one at the club. And I'm telling you now, if we have money available to us, the first position I would fill is up front.
But
all day.
When we've spent, you know, I know we haven't made a payment yet, but Beto, for example, and we signed Chimiti for 15 million. There's £45 million worth of strikers that we've bought there. Does it not worry you that because we've already addressed that issue, that they won't look at it again?
Well, listen, I think all football clubs, all directors of football, all managers do make mistakes in the transfer market. It's pretty obvious Chimity's one for the future. Beto, we haven't made a payment on him yet. Everything you said about Beto before is spot on. He can't hold the ball up. For the size of him, for the stature of him, he doesn't win enough headers. He'd be better coming in off the left. We've seen it. He's done it. I think he's done it. Who did he do it against the other week where he had the ball on the left and he ran in with it and he was strong with it. I can't remember if he squared him. But it was an example of what he can give you out wide. Now, he's not an out-and-out striker. Beto's not an out-and-out striker. So I do think if Everton could afford it in January, he still would go back and try and address that position on the pitch again. I really do, because I think it's pretty obvious that we thought we would have got more from Beto. It's pretty obvious, in my opinion, that Dominic Calvert-Lewin isn't good enough. He's not a good enough striker. He's not a consistent striker where you can rely on him to get you enough goals through the season. And again, we haven't seen much of Chimity because I think he is one for the future. So that position would be the first place I addressed if we had some cash available to us in the transfer window.
Yeah. I just don't know what the answer is. And when I look at it,
would go up front. He's played up front before.
I honestly think Danjuma is more than capable. I really do. The guy scored 17 goals, I think, in his last season at Villarreal. I don't quite understand the reason that they loaned him out, if I'm being honest. But the last 2 years, it's almost like Premier League managers don't fancy him, and I don't quite understand why. Because every time I've seen him, I've thought, you look good, you look decent, you look good on the ball, you can beat people. And
the thing is, we've only seen him come off the bench, though, Michael. Would we get that? And again, I agree with you, but would we get off that with him? Get that off him starting games? Probably not.
I don't know. But do you know what? I'd have no problem in starting against Wolves. For me, it would be over McNeil because
he's dead on his feet.
He is, but Josh keeps playing him. I don't get it. I don't get it because eventually Dwight's going to end up getting injured. He's going to end up getting injured, and I'm not. I don't know.
He needs a little break, doesn't he? So, we've probably got a player there who, from the flashes of what we've seen of him when he's come off the bench in Danjuma, there's probably a player in there starting against Wolves. Because, we can't really pass comment on if he would do that from the beginning of the game because we haven't really seen it. Start him against Wolves and see what he is capable of by starting.
Dyche has come out and said that Decore is touch and go for Wolves. Now, if I'm being honest, at this moment in time, a 60% fit Decore starts for Everton, in my opinion. And I'm not saying we're playing badly, by the way, because we're not. We've lost 2 games against 2 very good teams in Tottenham and Man City. So look, I'm not. But Wolves are decent. They've got energy, and Decore has that. So I would start him. Danjuma would come in for me for McNeil, and I would still start Beto over Calvert-Lewin. But I am, and this isn't the preview, but I am worried about this game against Wolves because Gary O'Neill's got them playing some really good football, and a lot of people thought they might go down this season, and that is clearly not the case.
Yeah, he's turned them around, hasn't he? He's come in, do you know what I mean? And the 4-1 last night at half time, they were up.
Yeah, well, they won 4-1.
Well, they won 4-1. That's a great performance. So Everton are going to have to go there and be careful. What you say, I know it's not the match preview, but what you said there, we've only lost 2 games. recently and against two very good teams. Not a pop at the team as a whole. We're talking about certain individuals who, for us, aren't pulling up any trees and probably need taking out the firing line and replacing them with the players we just spoke about.
Yeah, and the other issue is it's squad depth. We just haven't really got
We
it.
knew this would happen.
And you know, when I look at like players like Andros Townsend, who I actually really liked at Everton, I never had an issue with Andros Townsend, and obviously, I mean, I hate to say this, like Ross Barkley, for example, at Luton. There's clearly talented players out there that squads have got on free transfers, and that, you know, they've started to show how good they can be. And I just think if Everton are cash strapped, you know, loans, making early moves for people. You know, Kevin Furwell's come out and said it's not going to be a busy window, which is great, which is fine. But I would love to see a centre midfielder, a striker, and maybe another winger who he does fancy.
Take Calvin Phillips on loan.
I'd take Calvin Phillips all day, but apparently they want $7.5 million for him
Loan deal.
on a loan fee. Yeah, which
well, that's not happening, is it?
no. One thing I wanted to mention, obviously, this is the Man City debrief, and we were talking about this, and it was about the Man City fans yesterday. No negative towards Man City fans yesterday. There was no songs like "Feed the Scousers." There was none of that. There was the, you know, Merseyside is shit, and then we say Manchester shit and all that, which is just, you know, Northwest rivalry, which I have no problem about. But some of their chants last night was actually quite funny. You know, like Pickford's England's #5. I mean, it clearly got in his head and clearly worked because he made a mistake. And the other one was you cheaters. You know, I'm not going to swear too much, but you're cheating. You know what you are. And I sat there and thought the irony was hilarious. And yeah, I actually just thought it was a banterful away crowd last night. Few funny songs, and I don't mind away fans like that, to be honest. I'd rather.
The thing is, if they've set a precedent now with Everton, with looking into teams, they can sing that all they want last night. But you know, in the next 12, 18 months, when they're here and happening, they're in for an absolute shock if we do stick to the rules.
Yeah, I can't wait to watch Manchester City against Solihull Moors in the Conference League.
Honestly, God, after watching them at Bootline, I can cross the road and go and watch that game.
Look, mate, can you imagine Rodri scoring from 50 yards and sticks it through your garden?
They're in for a shock. They're in for a shock if the precedent's now being set and all teams are going to get treated like Everton did.
Yeah, well. I don't think there's much more to talk about, really. Andre Gomez started his first game back. Tough game for him against Manchester City. I mean, can you imagine how difficult that would be?
Yeah, he wasn't there great, but again, that's not a pop at him. You know, first, after being out for 2 years, is it, you know, the first time he starts is only his second appearance in so long, and it's against Man City. So, no pop to Andre Gomez. I just thought he looked off it last night, but what you'd expect.
Yeah. Guys, look, we'll leave it there. Thank you for watching to the end. If you got to here, make sure you like and subscribe to the channel. There will be match preview tomorrow for Everton against Wolves. Yeah.
Game that I'll be at.
Yeah, again, John will be at. So if you do see him and his little lad, make sure you go and say hello to him. And John will happily buy you a pint and a pie and a hot dog, and actually I'll buy you a couple of pints. Yeah, he's taking some spare shirts with him, which he's buying from the shop prior to that. So just rinse him for everything him and his son have got. Just rinse the both of them. Take Frankie's candy money, whatever he's taking. Just take it. It's fine.
Just Robert
wherever Frankie is, you just let him know that I've just told him and set him completely up for that. Can't wait. Guys, look, keep smiling, up the toffees, and we'll see you tomorrow.